For 16 years now, the NFL has released an annual top 100 players list. It's a list that is uniquely voted on by players, ranking their peers based on talent, respect, accomplishments, and how much they fear opposing them. While it has been a great implementation to give us NFL content during the quote dead period of the offseason, there have been inevitable disagreements and players more deserving than others that have slipped through the cracks over the years. Obviously, each individual to ever make an NFL top 100 list is supremely talented and should be acknowledged for their success in a game that only the top 1% of athletes even have a chance of playing in the first place. However, when you look back over time, you do see some names that make you question what the players voting were thinking. In this case, the benefit of hindsight helps, as some of the questionable names either had career-altering injuries, new coaching staffs, off-field issues, or just randomly fell off. From reputation-based picks to one-hit wonders who vanished, these in my opinion are the 10 worst players to ever make the NFL top 100. Starting us off at number 10 is wide receiver Jeudy. Though he is only 27 years old and still has time to prove us wrong, Jeudy has not lived up to the draft hype from 2020 when he was selected 15th overall. Jeudy's one and only time on the NFL's top 100 list came a year ago, landing at number 82 in 2025. He did have a stellar season, racking up over 1,200 yards on 90 receptions, but only 4 touchdowns, majority of that coming with gunslinger Jameis Winston at the helm. But in fairness to Jeudy, he spent the rest of his 6-year NFL career catching passes from the likes of Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, Broncos Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson on the Browns. He always had the talent to be a top 100 player, but the numbers say he's nothing more than a decent wide receiver too, and his near 7% drop rate over his career does not help the cause either. In his 6 seasons, only once has he eclipsed 1,000 yards, and same can be said for the amount of seasons with over 5 touchdowns. When you look at the stat sheet, Jeudy has basically given you Darius Slayton production, while the guys picked right behind him in the draft turned out to be superstars like CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. I know that may be harsh, but it's still nicer than what Steve Smith said about him.
Don't trade for Jerry Jeudy. Can he be a wide receiver? He could be a wide receiver. He's a tier 3. Go back into the studio. I'm done now. Thank you.
Number 9 brought me to another wide receiver. Hurns was ranked as the 89th best player in the NFL in 2016, coming off of a season with 1,000 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns. Unlike Jerry Jeudy, Hurns was not a highly touted prospect whatsoever. He actually went undrafted. The 2015 Jaguars offense gave us multiple outlier seasons, which is a hint for later by the way, and Hurns was no different. Hurns, like his teammate Allen Robinson, greatly benefited from garbage time and prevent defense that season. After a breakout sophomore season, Hurns played 4 more years in the NFL, but never cracked over 500 yards or 3 touchdowns in a single season again. He did run into bad injury luck the final few years of his career, including a gruesome ankle dislocation in 2018's playoffs. Hurns greatly overachieved for an undrafted free agent, but overall his body of work is still underwhelming compared to other great players in the top 100. Running back Ajayi comes in at number 8. The J Train had an interesting career with some outstanding single game performances, but was out of football and signed with a professional esports team before even turning 27. His 2016 season with the Dolphins that included 1,272 rushing yards along with 8 touchdowns was enough to earn him the 69th spot on the 2017 top 100 list. During that season, Ajayi became one of 4 players in NFL history to rush for over 200 yards in consecutive games, joining a list of O.J. Simpson, Earl Campbell, and Ricky Williams. He rushed for over 200 yards in a game later in the season, making him the first player in 43 years to reach the 200-yard mark 3 times in one season, joining Earl Campbell, O.J. Simpson, and Derrick Henry in 2020. Ajayi never reached those heights again, although he led the Eagles in postseason rushing during their 2017 Super Bowl run. After that moment though, his career faded. A torn ACL in 2018, followed by other degenerative knee issues, caused Ajayi to break down physically and essentially be out of football by the time he was 26. At his peak, he was a top 100 player, but it was over in what felt like a blink of an eye. Coming in at number 7 is James Robinson, an undrafted running back out of Illinois State in 2020, who went on to have a 1,000-yard rookie season season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Robinson was one of the lone standouts from the 1-15 Jags team, averaging 4.5 yards per carry, adding 344 yards in the air, and totaling 10 touchdowns. It was enough to get him the final spot on the 2021 Top 100 list, coming in at exactly 100. Despite the impressive rookie year, Jacksonville still selected a running back in round 1 in the following draft, but that same running back went on to miss his entire rookie year due to a foot injury. Robinson was given the starting job again in 2021, and while he played well, he saw decreased usage and ended up tearing his Achilles late in the season. Once Travis Etienne was back to full health the following training camp, Robinson became expendable and was traded to the Jets in the middle of the 2022 season. Since that time, he bounced around to the Patriots, Giants, Packers, Saints, but couldn't stick anywhere long term. He currently plays in the UFL for the Louisville Kings and actually helped them win a championship in 2026. He was a good story, and like any other undrafted player to ever make the top 100, he exceeded all expectations. But whether it was the injury or not finding the right team, his time as a useful player in the NFL was short-lived. Number 6 brings us to Case Keenum, who made it all the way to number 51 on the 2018 Top 100 list. It made sense coming off the heels of an NFC Championship appearance, and being a big part of an iconic playoff moment did not hurt either. Keenum's 14 starts in 2017 brought him to 22 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions, completing 67% of his passes and going 11-3 as a team in that span. Unfortunately, that season will go down as an anomaly, considering Keenum never came close to reaching those heights ever again. Keenum was given a shot to become Denver's franchise quarterback, but it produced lackluster results, and they moved on after one season. He was used as a bridge to Dwayne Haskins in 2019, but since 2020 has solely been used as a backup/veteran presence to mentor younger quarterbacks. Whether it was the Minneapolis Miracle, being undersized, or carving out a nice career as an undrafted player, Case Keenum will be remembered fondly by most NFL fans. But in hindsight, to have him nearly ranked as a top 50 player in the NFL was probably an overreaction. Remember Josh Freeman? You may not if you're under the age of 25, but Freeman once made the NFL Top 100 list when it first debuted back in 2011. He was number 86 overall. Listed at 6'6", 248 pounds with impressive tools, it made sense why the Buccaneers took Freeman 17th overall in the 2009 draft. He struggled mightily as a rookie, but his second year in 2010 is what got him onto the top 100 list. Freeman tossed 25 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, added 364 rushing yards, and helped lead Tampa to a 10-6 record, all at the age of 22. While it did look like the Bucs had a franchise quarterback on their hands, it all came crashing down in 2011. His footwork and mechanics were sloppy, going from 6 interceptions to 22 interceptions, and resulting in a 4-11 record during his starts. With Greg Schiano in 2012, his numbers improved, but still not good enough, completing just 54% of his passes with 17 interceptions, and the Bucs missing the playoffs yet again. 2013 saw the end of his time in Tampa, getting benched after 3 games for Mike Glennon, leading to an ugly divorce with the team that drafted him. 12 days later, we saw Freeman start for the Vikings on Monday Night Football, and he looked atrocious. By the age of 25, Freeman had become a journeyman quarterback, spending time with the Giants, Dolphins, and randomly starting a Week 17 game before heading to the CFL and FXFL. From a pure talent standpoint, it made sense why the players fell in love with his ceiling, but in reality, Josh Freeman was the ultimate modern one-hit wonder. We have another flash-in-the-pan quarterback at number 4. This time it's Blake Bortles. I mentioned earlier how Alan Hurns and the 2015 Jags benefited from playing behind in some nasty garbage time that inflated their stats. There was no bigger culprit than the man throwing him the ball. Fresh off that 2015 season, the players looked at the stat sheet and somehow voted Blake Bortles as the 56th best player in the NFL on the 2016 list. Meanwhile, 11 of his 35 touchdowns came in the final 5 minutes of games while his team was trailing, and he led the NFL with 18 interceptions that season. In 2015, when Bortles' Jaguars were down 15 points or more, he had an incredible 116 passer rating on 70 attempts. The inflated numbers while trailing garnered respect from his peers peers, and although he was very close to a Super Bowl appearance in 2017, I don't believe anyone left that thinking Bortles was an elite quarterback. He spent one more season as a starter before transitioning to a full-time backup for multiple teams. In the 2022 offseason, Bortles announced his retirement before even turning 30 years old. Number 3 is arguably the most polarizing quarterback of the 2020s, Justin Fields. In 2023, Fields made the top 100 list, coming in at number 86. The then 24-year-old was about to enter his third season, and despite having a 5-20 quarterback record, a completion rate below 60, and just 3 more touchdowns than interceptions, he still found a way to make the list. Much of the hype can be attributed to his final 8 games of 2022, when the second-year quarterback had a 93 passer rating and averaged a ridiculous 97 rushing yards per game. In 2022 as a whole, Fields led the NFL in rush yards per attempt, ran for over 1,100 yards on the year, and had the second most rushing yards for a quarterback in a single season ever, only trailing 2019 MVP Lamar Jackson. Many people, myself included to be honest, fell for the small sample size. The former 11th overall pick did not do much to prove the skeptics wrong in 2023. The same mistakes kept occurring, he never grew as a passer, and failed to process the game at a high level. Fields has now been on 4 different teams since he was announced on the top 100 list just 3 years ago, and it's fair to admit that the players jumped the gun on crowning him one of the better quarterbacks in the game. I originally had this guy rated as my worst top 100 player of all time, but after thinking it over, I did move Tim Tebow to the number 2 spot. For his magical 2011 run alone, Tebow made the list as the 95th ranked player that following summer. It was easy to get swooped in the theatrics and lovable character that Tebow had become, but it was one of the more short-lived top 100 careers we've seen to this point. After 2011, Denver brought in Peyton Manning and flipped Tebow to the Jets for a couple of day 3 draft picks. With Tebow being the most inaccurate quarterback in football during his 13 starts in Denver, coming in at a dreadful 47% completion rate, the Jets mainly used him as a special teamer. While Mark Sanchez remained the starter, the Jets did put Tebow on the field for 5 to 10 offensive snaps per game, resulting in minimal success and disrupting the flow of the offense more than anything. The ultimate indictment for how the coaching staff viewed him was when Sanchez finally got benched, and the Jets gave the starting job to third-string quarterback Greg McElroy, completely bypassing Tebow. He would bounce around on some other training camp rosters, tried playing baseball, and randomly came back to Jaguars camp as a tight end after being out of football for 6 whole years, and that was pretty much it. He retired with 2,422 passing yards, completing 47% of his passes, and a 75 passer rating. The memorable playoff win over Pittsburgh can never be taken from him, and neither could his career 8-6 record as a team's starting quarterback. The worst player to ever grace the NFL's top 100 list, in my opinion, is Trent Richardson. After 2,000 plus scrimmage yards and 24 touchdowns as a junior, Richardson was taken 3rd overall in the 2012 NFL Draft. In his rookie year, Richardson just fell short of 1,000 rushing yards, but did add 51 receptions and found the end zone 12 times. It was a solid season, although he was an inefficient compiler, taking up 32% of Cleveland's offensive touches that season. His 3.6 yards per carry, while being well below league average, would end up being the most efficient season of his short NFL career. It was still enough to get him ranked number 71 on the top 100 list, but it was the one and only time he would ever be in consideration. His second season was a disaster. After 2 games as a Brown in 2013, he was shockingly traded to the Colts for a first-round pick that the Browns used on Johnny Manziel. He'd finished that year averaging an abysmal 3 yards per carry, while being outshined by veteran Donald Brown, who was substantially more efficient than the 23-year-old Richardson. His third season was more of the same, still failing to average more than 3.5 yards per carry, while splitting time with another veteran, this time Ahmad Bradshaw. Despite Bradshaw going down late in the year, Richardson did not take advantage of the opportunity, eventually being supplanted by a replacement-level running back in Dan Herron. Richardson was such a negative that the Colts made him a healthy inactive for their 2 playoff games in the 2014 season, and he would never see a regular season carry for the rest of his career. By the time he was 24 years old, the 3rd overall pick from 3 years prior, was fighting for his life to stay in the league. He spent the next couple of years trying to stick with Oakland and Baltimore, but couldn't make the final 53. Richardson spent the next few years playing in leagues that were not the NFL, whether it was Canadian football, the Alliance of American Football, and even played in Mexico for a year. His downfall can be attributed to many things, but mainly due to the fact that the massive running lanes he saw at Alabama were nowhere near what he saw in the NFL. His vision was simply not good enough, and quickly lost confidence after a slow start with the Colts. Once again, making the top 100 for any year is a substantial accomplishment, and these guys deserve recognition for it. Although we've clearly had some odd outliers, like these guys, I still believe this is a great concept and a nice way for players to show respect for their peers. If you have any disagreements or believe somebody was missing, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you next time.